You know, the landscape of global defense technology, it's always shifting, isn't it?
Constantly.
And recently, a development has really caught our attention. The very real possibility of a major new partnership shaping up. We're talking high stakes, advanced military aircraft here.
That's right. We're looking at Indonesia's very public, very enthusiastic interest in becoming a partner in Turkey's 5th-generation KAAN fighter jet project.
Right.
And this isn't just, a casual inquiry. It signals potential for really deep collaboration on some seriously cutting-edge hardware.
Exactly. And to really get a handle on what's driving this, we've been digging into recent news reports, particularly around Indonesian President Subianto's visit to Turkey. These weren't just polite diplomatic meetings, were they? It seems like serious discussions on defense, on tech cooperation were definitely on the table.
Absolutely.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack this. Understand why this potential alliance matters so much for both Indonesia and Turkey and, what the ripple effects might be internationally. So where do we start? Let's kick off with Indonesia's perspective. What are they really signaling with this move towards Camaro?
Well, what's striking is how direct President Subianto was in Ankara. He really clearly stated Indonesia's ambition to actively participate. In the KAAN project, yes, but he also specifically mentioned partnering on submarine manufacturing, too.
Submarines as well. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, that dual focus, it sort of underscores a broader strategic aim, I think.
Right, and it felt like it went beyond just the hardware, didn't it? There was this real emphasis on strengthening the overall defense ties.
Definitely.
He even expressed admiration for Turkey, said he's learning a lot from them. That kind of language from a head of state, it suggests something more than just a buyer-seller relationship.
It absolutely does. It suggests a significant level of trust, of respect. It points towards Indonesia looking for a genuine, maybe more long-term partner in boosting their defense capabilities, not just an off-the-shelf purchase.
Okay, so let's zoom in on the KAAN jet itself then. For anyone maybe not following its development super closely, what is KAAN, and why is it such a pivotal moment for Turkey's defense industry?
KAAN is essentially Turkey's flagship project, a decade-long effort to engineer their own 5th-generation fighter from scratch.
A decade, wow.
Yeah. It was unveiled publicly last year, 2023, and then had its first successful test flight early this year, which was obviously a huge step.
Huge milestone.
Exactly. And the significance puts Turkey in a very small club, nations with the tech base, the infrastructure to actually produce these kinds of aircraft.
Right, that's a very exclusive group.
It is. And that capability dramatically cuts their dependence on foreign suppliers for really critical military assets. It's about national security, strategic autonomy.
Makes perfect sense. And looking under the hood, so to speak, what kind of capabilities are we talking about with KAAN? What's the tech?
Well, initially it'll fly with 2 General Electric F-110 engines. Those are the same ones used in many F-16, so they're proven.
Okay, familiar tech there.
But the long-term plan, Turkey's goal, is to switch to domestically produced engines for the serial production models. That's expected to start around 2028.
Ah, engine independence too.
Precisely. Capability-wise, think advanced air-to-air combat, using next-gen weapons. It's got internal weapon bays for precision strikes at supersonic speed. That's a key 5th-gen feature, helps minimize radar signature.
Stealthy.
Very. Plus, there's a significant integration of AI and neural networks planned that's supposed to boost its combat power, help with things like threat assessment, managing sensor data, all that complex stuff.
So really pushing the technological envelope there. And I remember reading that Turkey hasn't been shy about wanting international partners on this.
That's a really key point. Ankara has been quite open about wanting to collaborate with friendly nations on KAAN's development. It's not meant to be a purely solo effort.
Which, of course, opens the door for someone like Indonesia.
Exactly. It creates that natural opening.
Now, this KAAN interest, it doesn't exist in a vacuum, does it? Turkey and Indonesia, they've been building a broader relationship beyond just military tech.
Oh, absolutely. You have to look at President Erdogan's visit to Indonesia back in February. That really seemed to set the stage for deeper cooperation. There's clearly a mutual desire to expand ties beyond defense. They're talking economy, health, construction, energy, even culture. They've set this pretty ambitious goal of hitting $10 billion in bilateral trade.
$10 billion? That's a serious target.
It is. And when President Subianto was just in Ankara, it wasn't all defense talk. They signed agreements on media cooperation, PR, communications, culture, even disaster management.
Right, I saw that. And didn't Erdogan gift Subianto one of those Turkish electric cars? The TOG.
He did, yes. Back during the February visit. It's one of those symbolic gestures, but it speaks volumes about the warming relationship.
And we shouldn't forget the existing defense links that were already there. That drone joint venture is pretty significant, right? Baykar and Republic Corp.
Hugely significant. The JV aims to set up a UAV manufacturing facility in Indonesia, co-producing the Bayraktar TB3 and the bigger Akinci drone.
So actual tech transfer, local production?
Exactly. It's more than just buying drones. And remember, they had that defense cooperation agreement from way back in 2010. That led to the joint development of the medium tank Pindad from Indonesia and FNSS from Turkey.
Ah, yes, the Kaplan Hermo tank.
That's the one. Plus, just last year, 2023, they agreed on a plan for joint military exercises, more defense industry cooperation, and Indonesia also bought 12 Turkish drones worth around $300 million.
Okay.
So there's definitely a solid foundation already in place for this kind of deeper partnership.
So the groundwork was definitely laid. But it's really interesting when you look at Indonesia's recent track record with defense procurement. It hasn't exactly been smooth sailing all the way, has it? That South Korean KF-21 fighter project immediately comes to mind.
That's such a critical piece of context here. Their experience with the KF-21 Borame program has been, well, let's say challenging. Indonesia was the only foreign partner. They put down a big commitment, nearly $1 billion, for tech access and 48 planes.
Right, about $958 million, wasn't it?
Around that, yeah. But then major hurdles appeared. Indonesia actually stopped making payments for several years, from 2019 to 2022.
Stop payments entirely.
For a significant period. And as of last year, South Korea was reportedly still waiting for a clear payback strategy from Indonesia. That kind of halt signals, pretty serious issues.
And it wasn't just money troubles, right? Weren't there concerns about technology sharing, maybe even some issues with data security involving engineers?
Exactly. Those issues definitely strained things. More recently, Indonesia actually proposed cutting its financial contribution way down to around $442 million and limiting its tech transfer access.
Wow, cutting it almost in half?
Pretty much. And South Korea hasn't made a final decision on that revised offer yet. There were even reports that Jakarta wasn't responding much to formal letters from Seoul about the program.
Yikes. Okay, so that whole situation really highlights why maybe a different kind of partnership model, something more flexible or responsive, might look appealing to Indonesia now.
Precisely. The KF-21 experience underscores the appeal of frameworks that are perhaps perceived as more adaptable or transparent.
It really does sound like a case study in the potential difficulties of these big international co-development projects. And the KF-21 wasn't their only iron in the fire recently, was it? They've been looking at other fighters too.
No, they've definitely been diversifying their shopping list.
Yeah.
There was that memorandum of agreement with Boeing for 24 F-15EX Eagle Tech.
The F-15ID, potentially.
Right, potentially designated F-15ID. That deal had a stated value around $13.9 billion. But there's no firm contract signed yet. And there have been questions raised in Indonesia about the long-term financial sustainability. Big price tag.
Huge. And then there's the French connection.
Yes, the deal for 42 Dassault Rafale fighters, all in the latest F4 standard. Deliveries are supposed to start in 2026.
Okay, so that one seems more concrete.
It does, but even there, you hear some concerns in Jakarta about the long-term logistics and sustainability of operating such an advanced fleet.
And didn't they flirt with buying some secondhand Mirages from Qatar for a bit? That seemed like a quick fix that fizzled out.
They did consider it, buying used Mirage 2005s, but that plan was eventually shelved. Concerns about the age of the airframes, the upgrades needed, and again, relying on French support for an older platform.
Right.
So when you piece all that together, the KF-21 troubles, the big price tags on the US and French options, the Mirage issues, it looks like Indonesia is really trying to find that sweet spot. Advanced capability, but also affordability, genuine partnership, and maybe more control over the tech.
Which brings us right back to KAAN. Given all these experiences, why would Turkey's offer on KAAN seem particularly attractive right now?
Well, the key difference seems to be the type of partnership on offer. Turkey isn't just saying buy our jet. They're emphasizing co-development, real technology sharing.
So not just a customer, but a partner.
Exactly. That flexibility would let Indonesia be actively involved in development, maybe even production. That's a big shift from just buying off the shelf or facing roadblocks in tech transfer, like with the KF-21.
And that existing trust, built through the tank project and other collaborations, that must help smooth the path, too. They're not starting completely from scratch with Turkish industry.
Absolutely. Having worked together successfully on land systems, maybe naval projects too, that builds confidence. Plus, there's likely an expectation of solid long-term support logistics, maintenance, maybe even weapons integration. That makes partnering with Turkey look potentially more balanced, more transparent maybe, compared to other deals where long-term support can become an issue. So yeah, pivoting towards KAAN after the KF-21 difficulties, it looks pretty logical, quite strategic.
Okay, beyond the KAAN jet, President Subianto also specifically mentions submarines. What's Turkey offering there that might interest Indonesia?
Turkey's got a few interesting submarine projects going on. They build the Type 214TN, which is under German license but includes air-independent propulsion, or AIP.
AIP, that lets them stay underwater much longer, right? Less vulnerable.
Exactly, a big capability boost. Then there's the Meldin project, that's Turkey's own indigenous submarine design. The really interesting part there is potential for vertical launch systems.
For cruise missiles, maybe?
Potentially, yes. That would significantly upgrade its offensive punch. And finally, there's a company called STM pushing its STM 500 design. That's smaller, more modular, designed for shallower waters, maybe special forces operations.
So a range of options for different needs.
Yeah, different capabilities that could align well with Indonesia's maritime security challenges, given its massive archipelago.
It certainly sounds like Turkey is presenting quite a comprehensive defense portfolio, not just fighter jets. Could the talks involve other things too? Helicopters, maybe?
That wouldn't surprise me at all. TSJ, the same company behind KAAN, makes the Gukbi utility helicopter. It's in production. They're actively marketing it for export.
Okay.
Given Indonesia definitely needs versatile helicopters for all sorts of roles, yeah, Gukbi could easily be another point of discussion in these broader defense talks.
So, Indonesia is clearly very interested. But they're not the only ones looking at KAAN, are they? This project seems to be generating quite a bit of international buzz.
That's absolutely right. Indonesia might be the most vocal potential partner right now, but others are watching closely. Azerbaijan has publicly backed the project. Their officials have visited TUSH facilities.
Okay.
Pakistan has shown really strong interest potentially as a user and a co-developer down the line.
Pakistan too, interesting.
And Saudi Arabia, while not naming KAAN specifically, has definitely hinted at interest in 5th-Gen fighter tech during defense talks with Turkey. So all these developments, they really paint KAAN as this growing hub, potentially, for multinational collaboration on next-gen air power. For Turkey, getting Indonesia on board isn't just about the money. It's political capital, it's a foothold in Southeast Asia, maybe opens doors for more exports later.
It definitely sounds like a project with momentum and wide appeal. Okay, so as we start to wrap up this deep dive on Indonesia and the KAAN project, what are the main takeaways for people listening?
I think the core takeaway is that Indonesia's very clear interest in KAAN really signals a deepening strategic relationship with Turkey, focusing on defense and technology.
You're right.
This move seems driven by Indonesia needing modern military tech, sure, but also wanting more collaborative partnerships, especially after, the difficulties they faced elsewhere, like with the KF-21. It suggests a potential shift in how they approach defense procurement.
And it really does feel like a situation where both sides stand to gain quite a bit.
It seems that way, yes. For Turkey, it's a chance to broaden its defense partnerships, maybe share some of the huge development costs of a 5th-gen fighter, and gain insights from a major partner. And for Indonesia, access to cutting-edge tech, yes, but crucially, the chance to be a co-developer, to really participate, build up their own defense industry, which seems to be a major priority for them.
So here's something to chew on then. Thinking about Indonesia's past experiences, navigating these complex international defense deals, and seeing this growing global interest in KAAN, what does this potential partnership really tell us about the future? About how nations might share, develop, and acquire the most advanced military technologies going forward? It's definitely a fascinating situation to watch. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.